Fine.
Yeah. Oh yeah, sorry, we are recording. So if you don't want your beautiful face to show, please switch off your video on the screen. And we'll probably take a screenshot to put on social media or whatever. So if you really don't want your photograph, get off now. Just to say welcome to everybody and thank you all for attending. I think, you know, the more I'm going through January, the more I think with all this freezing weather and the after Christmas blues and all that kind of thing, I'm thinking nurturing ourselves with self-care is actually really important. And I think for everybody working in the early childhood home visiting field, it has been a tough time, you know, that it's funny when everybody else, I suppose, catches a cold, we're the ones that end up with the flu trying to support children and families across Ireland. This video or this webinar, and thanks very much to the organising committee, and I'll have to mention them because I'm just sitting here being a front. Sue Cullen from Preparing for Life, Mary Walker-Callahan from Life Start, Katrina Corcoran from Community Mothers, Trish Hurley from Let's Grow Together, Michelle Moore from Parent Child Plus, and finally Annabelle from the Early Learning Initiative, who supports with all the admin. And thanks also to the Wheel for the Training Links programme and the What Works from the Department of Children and Integration and Youth, or sorry, Integration and Youth for their support for this. And before Sonia starts, and we welcome Sonia to talk about, she's been helping us at ELI with self-care for years, so we're glad to spread the wealth. I'll just give you an idea of what the agenda is. So I'll do the overview and the welcome at 11 o'clock approximately, or a little after it. Sonia is going, well, it'll be 10 past. Sonia will talk about nurturing ourselves with self-care. And this is very much a webinar, and she'll take questions at the end. And finally, we're doing a wrap up and the next workshop date, which we're very excited. Trish from Let's Grow Together in Cork is going to do a piece on infant mental health. So the Home Visiting Alliance, what are we? We're a collaboration of 5 evidence-based early childhood home visiting programs. I've just mentioned all the people involved in the working group to actually put on this webinar, and they represent Community Mothers, which is moving towards community families, the Infant Mental Health, Life Start, Parent Child Plus, and Preparing for Life. And we're the collective national voice of early childhood home visiting in Ireland. We're involved in the development and delighted to be involved in the development of the first 5 national approach to early childhood home visiting. And we're involved in 2 ways. One, you all may have heard of the Unites project from Maynooth, which is doing a national review. Again, we are supporting that, I suppose, giving them access to our home visitors, to our coordinators, and to our children and families, such that I suppose the model will be one fit for purpose. The other piece we're looking at, and we'll have more information about this in February, March, is a feasibility study into how we can scale up home visiting across Ireland. All of us do great work. It's on a limited basis. And I suppose our ambition is that every child in Ireland would receive whatever form of home visiting that works for them. And the 5 programs are working together to ensure that happens. And what are the structures at national level that are needed, and what are the structures that at local level are needed to ensure that it's just as much a service as, say, public health nursing, as going to school, going to preschool, and all of that good stuff. And finally, we're a working group of the Prevention and Early Intervention Network, PEN. And we thank Maria and Francis and Stacey and all involved for their support of the Alliance. The big exciting news we have is that actually we got funding from the What Works grant to actually develop a website, and finally after a lot of to and froing, it's practically developed. There's a few tweaks to be done, but I'm delighted to present it. So what I'm going to do is to stop sharing now. I think I can do new share if I can, sorry. Yeah. So, okay, sorry. Sorry, I'll stop sharing and then share this. Okay, so here is the website. It's live. All right. And excuse me when you're doing something like this, sometimes it's hard to know if it'll work or it won't work. So hopefully it will for me. You can look it up yourselves, the https /HVA.ie. And as you can see, it's about the Home Visiting Alliance. It tells you what we do. There's some resources there, and it gives you information on it. And it gives us our objectives. Also, Annabelle, I don't know if you'd like to come to the fro. Annabelle is actually the person you contact. We have developed an email and contact and all of that, but it's not quite working yet. But we're sorting out that glitch. Again, look at the tabs about what we do. And you can go through it, what early childhood home visiting is, the different programs, and what they are about. The news and events, and as you can see, the Unites project is there. You can read more about it. And then the second, sharing knowledge, which is today, and we will put up the next one. The other piece is in terms of resources. So we have all the webinars that, excuse me, that we have actually, all the recordings. So we have put them out here so that they're available for people. And if you have free time, if any of us have that, you can go back and look at them. We also have some useful links in terms of the first 5 strategy, which is an important strategy for us. And then the most recent supporting parents one, in which home visiting is mentioned. And is very much a central tenet of the strategy. And then we have some documents, download the terms of reference, the overview, and then the commonalities between all our programs. While the 5 are different in that they, I suppose, approach things in a different way, there are a lot of commonalities. So that does that. And then we're hoping, and work is continuing on developing, the member section. The next one is and we have then the various projects. So at the moment, there's 3 projects. The What Works Learning Together project, 2 of them, one from last year and this year, and then the Wheel training links. So if you have any questions, put them in the chat about it. We'd be happy to answer them. And it's now my great pleasure to introduce, excuse me, to introduce Sonia. Sonia, do you want to start?
Thanks, Josephine. Appreciate that. So I'm delighted to be invited to join you guys this morning. As Josephine said, I've been doing self-care sessions with the PCHP home visitors and the ELI for a few years. And, you know, I know that the home visitors who partake in that really value it. So I'm hoping you guys are going to really take away some stuff from the session, some valuable self-care tips from the session today. I hope you're all managing to stay warm. I've got a hot water bottle on my lap right now. Look, as I say, or as Josephine said, there'll be a chance at the end to you know, if you have any questions, anything maybe throughout the session that kind of pops up and you think, oh yeah, that's actually something I'd like to ask more about, please feel free. We have 10 minutes at the end of the session, all going well with my timings. Yeah, and after the session, even, you know, you'll have my email address from Michelle, so you can pop an email through to me. So I won't delay because time slips away quickly at these sessions. So just to give you a little overview of what to expect from the session today, and you know what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put the, I'm just going to kind of expand that out a little bit. Just give me 2 seconds. There we go. So the aims of the session today are to have a look at what self-care is, the benefits of practicing self-care, tuning into our self-care needs, which can be easier said than done, depending on where we're at on any given day. Some grounding and self-regulating strategies that, you know, I'm going to you know, I'm going to do a little guided meditation kind of halfway through the session. And then just look at also some breathing exercises and boundaries. A really important part of self-care are boundaries. So we're going to have a little look at boundaries. So what I would like for us to have a little think about as a group, and for the sake of time, I'm going to get you just to put, you know, what your answer to this into the chat box. So what does self-care mean to you? So whether, you know, it's just, you know, you don't have to go into any great detail, but just a sentence or even a word, what self-care means to you. So just take a few moments just to reflect on that. And then you might just type into the chat box what it means to you. So let's see what I see. There's a comment come in there now. I just need to scroll down here. Connection. Yeah, absolutely. Connection, taking time for yourself, me time, taking time out to do the things that give you joy and you enjoy, for sure. Quiet head. Yep. Self-love, loving all these guys, taking time for yourself, taking time with friends, headspace, taking time to care for yourself, sitting in a quiet room for 20 minutes. Yeah, that sounds heavenly. Looking after one's mind and body, for sure, because it's the two, really, the connection, you know, between the mind and body is so important. Time for yourself, some music. So there's a lot of different ways that all of you like to engage in self-care. Some people like, you know, to have some quiet space to themselves. Some people like to listen to music. Some people like to spend time with you know, friends, you know. So I said, taking time to reflect, absolutely, and process what's been going on. Self-care, taking time to process what's going on in your life and head. I know it's really important to be able to take that time, because really otherwise, you know, what our needs are, tuning into what actually we need to do to care for ourselves, we're not actually able to be cognizant of that. So it's taking the time is really a big part of it, for sure. Being around positive people. Yeah, so I suppose, you know, what we're seeing here is that self-care is different to everybody. You know, what you know, I suppose the benefits of it are similar, you know, but it looks different to everybody. So I'm just going to move. Sorry, the slide isn't for some reason changing for me there. Don't know why that is. Oh, there we go. So I really love this quote. It's by a human rights activist, Audre Lorde. She says that she said it's an attitude that says, I'm responsible for myself and I will honor that responsibility as I would anything that is precious to me. And I know the first time I read that, it really resonated with me. I guess self-care for all of us, you know, it's a necessity, you know, it's not a kind of luxury. It's not it's something that is vital for us, you know, in terms of resourcing ourselves, and we're responsible. You know, it's down to us to engage in self-care, to look after ourselves. It's really important that we kind of think of it as a necessity, you know, not a luxury. So I'm just going to have a little look at what self-care is in terms of, I guess, the components of it. So when we think about self-care, a lot of you spoke about taking time for yourselves to be able to process, about engaging in things that, you know, you enjoy, because you're really usually in the present moment when you're really in a state of kind of enjoyment, aren't we? We're really in the moment. And when we're taking time to ourselves, it's also a means to coming back to ourselves. So really, when we think about that, you know, mindfulness is at its core. You know, when we're in the moment, present in the moment, we are able to be with ourselves and we're able to tune into how we're feeling, what our needs are, and we're more aware of what those things, you know, what self-care we might need to engage in. So it's an awareness and recognition of our needs, and a regular, if we can, I know for a lot of us, we're all have a lot of demands on us, and we live busy lives, and you know, we've got, I suppose, a lot of us, you know, families, work, extended family, you know, there's a lot of demands on us. So regularly tuning into our needs can be, and our feelings can be, you know, in terms of the time available to us, can be difficult. But trying to weave into our day time to just, if whether it's taking 10 minutes, you know, sitting down with a cup of tea and just giving yourself a chance just to process, as some of you mentioned in the chat box, is an important way for us to engage regularly in self-care, and knowing and engaging in what comforts, nourishes, and regulates you. So that can change from day to day, can't it? I mean, sometimes we might need more rest. We might need, you know, we might need more just slowness. Other times we might actually need just to move more, or we might need to see somebody and connect with them. So from day to day, I guess, or week to week, you know, our needs can change, and therefore the regularly tuning into what we might need is important. And as I think we all saw from the chat box, self-care is different for everyone. So for some reason it just isn't changing to the next slide that quickly. Anyway, not to worry. So the benefits of practicing self-care. So it supports healthy relationships. It supports you to focus on what's true and important to you. It supports resilience, helping to prevent burnout, which all of us want to prevent, for sure. And in the kind of work that, you know, you're all engaged in, I guess, you know, a lot of people who are engaged in, I guess, community work, you know, they're kind of caregiving roles. You know, we often like to give a lot, you know, so meeting your own needs, and I suppose, you know, taking time for ourselves may not come as easily, I think. So it's sort of about being cognizant of that as well, and thinking about, okay, the more I'm giving, and if I'm not like filling my cup and, you know, resourcing myself, you know, the result of that could be that I burn out. So, you know, again, just regularly tuning into how you are. You know, do you need to take time to yourself? Do you need to step back from something that maybe is just one thing too many that you're engaged in? But another benefit of practicing self-care is that it supports self-regulation. So when I say self-regulation, that is really when we're talking about grounding ourselves. You know, I suppose there's different scenarios in our day-to-day lives which causes stress, causes upset, and I suppose there's for all of us, you know, it's about finding ways to help us come back to a calm, relaxed state when we are dysregulated. So I guess self-care is a means to do that as well, and it reduces the effects of stress. So that might be, you know, mentally, emotionally, physically. Engaging in self-care can support, you know, us to, I suppose, be more aware of the chatter in our head, or it helps us maybe to be more aware of the fact that, you know, we are having some maybe difficult emotional responses to things going on in our lives. And maybe we need to connect around that, whether it's with ourselves or with somebody else, or maybe we need to talk about it. And then physically, of course, you know, we need to engage in, maybe it's, you know, a lot of us love to go for walks, you know, in nature. Nature can be just so grounding, can't it? So, you know, our daily walk can really support us to ground and to put things in perspective, I guess. You know, it's different for everybody. It's certainly something I hear a lot, though, in the self-care sessions that I run, you know, most people just love to get out and get it out for a walk. I've noticed there's some comments in the chat. Were any of those for me? Oh no, they were maybe from earlier. Okay. So what is resilience? I guess is something that kind of it goes hand in hand with self-care, and I suppose I thought it might, you know, taking a moment just to reflect on what resilience is will be beneficial. So resilience, there's a lady called Dr. Mally Coyne. I don't know if any of you have come across her, but she does some kind of, yeah, I suppose, columns in some of the kind of newspapers, and she's part of Brazzy's, you know, the podcast he does. She sometimes talks on that, but she has a book called Love In, Love Out. And it really is around supporting anxiety. And one of the lines, or one of the ways she described resilience, which I think sums it up, is it's learning to cope with manageable threats while having the ability to rebound in the face of difficulties. So I'll just say that again: learning to cope with manageable threats while having the ability to rebound in the face of difficulties. So, you know, when we think about that statement, you know, I guess it's manageable threats for one. Like let's think about the pandemic even, you know. I guess a lot of us, you know, we rode the waves of the pandemic, but, you know, and I guess for a lot of us, you know, the pandemic did it did cause a lot of anxiety and fears for people. And I guess, you know, a lot of us, certainly for myself, you know, as the months went on, you know, there were things that we were able to put in place to support us through it. But initially, you know, you felt like you weren't being held, you know, with your usual, I suppose, approaches to daily life, like the walks that we would have taken, or the structure around our day. So I guess, but maybe, you know, are we engaging in meditation and maybe some breathing exercises, you know, maybe that's something that we kind of wove into our day instead, so that, you know, it helped to ground us. So I suppose sometimes, you know, something happens and it's unexpected, and we might have some tools in our kit that can help us, but maybe some of the things that we'd usually have in our toolkit, you know, we've lost, you know. So and again, you know, I think for me, you know, that statement really is about what resources we have to kind of navigate those various difficulties in life. And I suppose all of us will have different resources, and I suppose some of us will have some that are maybe healthy coping mechanisms, some of us, you know, and we all will probably have a variation of healthy and maybe not so healthy coping mechanisms. So it's about even just taking time to reflect on what works and what doesn't, in terms of, you know, managing the difficulties we face in life. And I really like also just the idea that, you know, resilience is accepting life's colorful rainbow of emotions while becoming overwhelmed, without becoming overwhelmed by them. So just coming back to the idea of those resources, those protective factors that help us to manage stress, you know. So for all of us, we'll have some internal resources that help us to manage stress and anxiety and difficulties that come about. And I'm just wondering if we can just take a moment just to reflect on what some of those internal resources are. And if you'd like to share some of them in the chat box, that would be great. For some reason, I'm sorry guys, I'm just trying to, Michelle, for some reason when I'm going into the chat, it's just not scrolling all the way down. Would somebody maybe just type something into it and just see if it's writing in a journal? Okay, they're coming up now. Okay, brilliant. Okay? That's fine. Yeah. So writing in a journal, brilliant. Thanks guys for that. I can see there's a few highs there, so it is working. Practicing yoga, fantastic. Walking, brilliant. So as we can see, we all have kind of, so when I'm thinking about internal resources, so some of those are, I'd say, external, but that's okay. We can take the two together. Being out in nature, being close to nature, brilliant. So they're all kind of things that we engage in like, so nature is an external resource, isn't it? It's something that's available to us to engage in, that helps us manage our stress levels and our maybe our kind of anxiety and things like that. Praying, breathing exercises, fantastic. So that's a real internal resource, isn't it? A breathing exercise. And praying is a means of, I suppose, being in the present moment, isn't it, as well? Meditation, fantastic. Reading, again, it kind of takes you into another world, reading, doesn't it? You know, and helps you to kind of, I guess, ground yourself into that story even, doesn't it? You know, and out of maybe a busy head that, you know, you're having positive self-talk. Music, yeah, music is so powerful, isn't it? Shifting your mood. Spending time with family and friends, thinking of a happy memory. Yeah, absolutely. You know, that's really that kind of just bringing yourself into that moment of a memory that really brings you peace or joy. So that's great, guys. So I'm just gonna the next slide here, if it will move to the next slide for me. Sorry, I don't know why it's just not it takes a few clicks of the button before it moves for me. So all of those things that you kind of spoke about there fall under these two headings. So the internal, you know, resources that support resilience. So internal. So the way we think about ourselves, our self-image, you know, our belief system, self-esteem, self-worth, and believing that we are lovable and capable. So all of those things, when you think about it, if there's things that come up in our lives that cause us stress, you know, whether it's work related, whether it's got to do with a family relationship, whether it's got to do with maybe taking on a new like say you've gone back to college, or say, you know, you're learning a new skill. Like when maybe some things that crop up when we're trying to navigate, you know, relationship difficulties, or, you know, as I say, new skills that maybe you're learning, you come up against, I guess, difficulties, you know, and naturally we are going to come up against difficulties. You know, if we have an internal, you know, self-image that's, you know, relatively, you know, positive, you know, it's like, well, you know what, I know that, okay, I'm finding it's difficult, but that's natural. I'm learning something new, and, you know, I know that I'll just, you know, I'll take this one step at a time, you know, versus, you know, oh, I'm so bad at things, I never get things right. You know, this is just, I should never, you know, taken this on. That's really just an example. I mean, does anybody else have any sort of examples or things they wanted to share on that, you know, in terms of how some of these internal resources can either support or not support us? I guess our life history plays a big role in how our self-image has formed, how our, you know, belief system has formed. I'll just see, is there anything in the chat there? Oh yeah, that's some of the ones from earlier. Reflecting on previous experiences that worked out, for sure. That's a really good example, actually. You know, I mean, okay, well, you know what, when I can think back on other times that I've navigated, you know, new things that I don't know about, but I'm learning, I'm on my way to kind of, you know, nailing this skill. I did it. I got there. You know, you know, it's great to be able to draw on past experiences. Obviously, sometimes when we draw on past experiences, that maybe isn't helpful. You know, maybe things, you know, didn't work out the way we wanted them to. But maybe it's about looking at what things maybe you could do differently this time, you know, and this too shall pass for sure. You know, that's I think, because when we most of the time things, they do pass, and we do get through them, you know. And then when we go to the external resources, so, and I know a lot of you spoke about, you in the chat box, you put in things that, you know, spending time with loved ones, connecting with others, you know, being in nature, you know, going for those walks. They're all things in our external world that, you know, we know are good for us, you know, that, you know, we know when we're feeling upset about something, or if we need to talk about something, we have people in mind that we know we can rely on and trust. So both these, you know, the internal and external resources are all it's a means of like, I guess, looking at self-care and how we can, I guess, put more into each. So what can I do to have, you know, a more positive self-image, or, you know, or what might help me to engage in more, you know, in terms of the external piece, you know, would I like to be engaged in, you know, doing yoga more regularly, stuff like that, you know. So self-awareness, Lydia, absolutely. I mean, I suppose at the kind of the core of self-care is self-awareness, like the mindfulness piece. You know, when we're in the present moment, and we're aware of what's happening for us, you know, that's an essential component of being able to then look at what our needs are, and, you know, how we're feeling and whatnot. So absolutely, self-awareness is integral, really, to that. So let me just press this button maybe 5 times, and then it'll change to the next slide. I have faith that from changing the other slides that will happen, because it seems to be the case that it doesn't change when I press it the first time. There we go. So what I'd like us all to do now is to put one hand on our heart and one hand on our belly. So what this really does is, well, I guess it just brings us closer to ourselves. You know, you can feel your chest rising with your breath.
Phone rings, will you answer it? It'll only be reception.
Oh yeah, I'm just going to mute whoever that is, or maybe Michelle, you could do that, could you? Somebody just maybe has themselves off mute there. So yeah, with one hand on our heart and one hand on our belly, we can really just kind of connect with ourselves, and it's a really good way throughout the day, you know, when you have a moment and you've been rushing around and everything's been really busy. I certainly find if I sit down and I just put my hands on my, you know, my heart and my tummy, it kind of it grounds you quicker than, say, you're just sitting without putting your hands on your heart and your belly. Now, obviously everyone's different, but you might feel that your heart is maybe beating that bit faster, and bringing your attention to your belly, like, am I holding tension in my belly? Because really we hold a lot of our emotional, a lot of our emotions are held in, you know, that energy is held in the belly. So when we're, you know, when we're thinking about, I suppose, regulating and being able to then communicate from a regulated place, because often in our relationships, in our day-to-day lives, you know, there's just stuff that kind of causes us worry or upset or frustration, you know, and sometimes, you know, with that can come a feeling of being ungrounded, you know, so not feeling calm, you know. That's kind of when I say regulated, that's kind of what I'm referring to. So being able to just take a step back and you know, notice that in your body and asking yourself, you know, okay, like, you know, what do I need to do right now? Do I need to just, you know, I need to process this anyway, and maybe I can't do that right now, but at the very least I can just take a step back from this, until I've grounded myself. I am feeling, let's just say it's this fear, you know, there's anxiety. It's, you know, I can feel that that's how that is. That's just accepting that that's how you're feeling in that moment, at the very least, can actually be beneficial, because when we're trying to fight it, and it actually it manifests more, you know. So let's see. Oh yes, first click, it changed. Amazing. So there's a really, and I'm sure a lot of you here have heard of this breathing technique before. But it's called the 4-7-8 breathing technique. And I practice it, you know, twice daily myself. You know, it's about engaging in a preventative kind of way, rather than, oh, I'm going to do this breath now because I'm feeling anxious or because I'm feeling overwhelmed. It's more so a case of, well, you can do it obviously at those times too, but it's about doing it regularly all the time, you know, so that your body has become kind of, because what we're really doing when we're doing this breathing technique is we're giving our nervous system the message that everything's okay, we're safe, everything's okay. So I'll go into the benefits of it in just a moment, but I just wanted to kind of explain, for any of you who have never heard of it before, and I'm sure many of you have, how we do it. So 4-7-8. So you're gonna inhale, you're gonna close your mouth and inhale through your nose for the count of 4, mental count 4, obviously. And I suppose, yeah, so we'll maybe do a round of it once I've explained it. Then we pause. I like to say pause, you can say hold, for a mental count of 7. So we're going to breathe in through our nose to a mental count of 4. We're going to pause for 7 counts. And then we're going to exhale through our mouth for the count of 8. Now, an important part of the breathing out, because this helps to kind of lengthen the breath out, you put your tongue on the roof of your mouth. So you're going to sit it up behind your teeth. And when you're taking the breath out, it just slows down that breath out. It makes a kind of whooshing kind of noise. So it would kind of sound like. Now, when you do this initially, you can feel a bit silly, but who cares? You know, the main thing is it's going to send your nervous system the message that you're safe, everything's okay. So it's important. The important thing is that, yeah, the breath out is longer, because that's what really brings brings the nervous system into a calmer state. So what we might do together is we'll just do 2 rounds of this breath. So, you know, I'll let you go at your own. We'll all just take a minute and do it now, the 2 counts while we're here. So how did that feel for everybody? I mean, I'm guessing some of you have heard of it before, whether you've kind of engaged in it like on a regular basis. I don't know, but what I will say is, you know, I can only say from my own experience, I find it really helpful to do. And doing it twice a day, I do 2 rounds of it twice a day, and sometimes I might add in a third if I'm having, you know, a day where I know I'm going really fast, I know I'm more in my head, and I'm not as in contact with how my body is feeling. You know, I'll do it just to try and make more connection with what's happening in my body. Often I think when we're going at a fast pace, and it can be really necessary, you know, we're all, you know, leading busy lives with a lot of demands on us, as I said earlier, but when we just take time to slow down a little bit, we can just release some pent up kind of energy in our bodies. And this breathing technique is just a good way to just tune into that. Another really good way to slow ourselves down is in the way we talk. So if you're noticing, as again, that things are just going fast and your head's busy and everything's just go, 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 go. Another really great thing to do is just slowing down how you talk. I'm quite a fast talker. And when I start to talk more slowly, like I am right now, I do feel my body is starting to just settle a little bit more. It does feel not as natural to speak more slowly in the way I am now. And I'm guessing you probably are thinking, oh, she just seems like she's talking at a normal pace. I feel like I'm talking super slowly. But just lowering your tone and like purposefully slowing down the pace of how, you know, you're talking can really actually help as well. So just in terms of the benefits of this breathing technique, and there's lots of really great breathing techniques out there. I think this particular one, as I said, it's the, you know, the longer breath out and the pause that really are, I suppose, the elements of it that really kind of give your nervous system that, as like the guy who actually came up with this type of breathing technique, it was, you know, he described it as a natural tranquilizer for the nervous system. So you're giving, it's like almost like you're dosing your nervous system each time you do it. You know, you're just giving it that, okay, you're kind of putting pin in it almost, you know, you're taking out that kind of pent up energy in your nervous system. Practicing it regularly really can reduce stress, anxiety, and, you know, panic. You know, it has been used to treat panic. Yeah, and so I'm just going to, there's just some comments here that I didn't see. So it really grounds you, yeah, and feeling calmer. I think that probably might have been, you know, Michelle or Annabelle who put that in. And then Shelley, it gives you a few minutes to relax and settle your mind. Yeah, I mean, it does. I mean, I feel even just from the few minutes there myself, from slowing down my speech, doing the 2 rounds of it, I'm feeling more kind of settled myself. Supports sleep. Yeah, I mean, I can say sleep is such an indicator, isn't it, of how, if there's stress going on, if we're feeling that there's sleep is disrupted often, certainly for me, I find if there's stuff that I'm not really getting a chance to think about during the day, or that I'm avoiding thinking about, or sometimes it's like there's nothing in particular that's going on in your head, but your body is just not settling. Now, look, sometimes it can be down to, you know, the temperature in the room, or it can be down to, you know, more mundane kind of things. But if there's a kind of cycle of bad sleep, like it is important to kind of take a look at that. Like that's a really good indicator to you that, okay, there's some stress held in my body, or there's stuff that is going on that I really do need to take time to look at, and maybe there's some stuff I need to address, you know, or I need to talk about it. But so this 4-7-8, getting back to the 4-7-8 breathing technique, it really does support sleep. I find it has helped my sleep for sure. Now it's not to say you're never going to have any difficulty sleeping. I mean, you know, that's always going to, you know, you're going to have little patches of bad sleep for different reasons. But listen, it's worth a go. You know, what's the harm? Aids digestion. Yeah, like if you're doing this, like say twice a day, you know, you're relaxing the muscles in your body. So of course your digestion is going to work better, and your energy is going to flow more easily. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do a short it's not more than 8 minutes, I don't think, mindfulness, guided mindfulness. And when we're finished that, I think we'll just take, let me just see what time we're on. We're on 11:45. So yeah, we'll take 5 minutes, I think, just after we do the guided meditation, you know, just to kind of take a movement break, and we'll come back then. So I'm just going to get everybody to, I suppose, before we kind of, you know, do the actual meditation, I want you just to do a body scan. So, you know, what I would say is, you know, kind of unfold your legs if you have them folded in your seat. Notice your feet on the ground, just, you know, are they in a comfortable position? Your arms, maybe just kind of, the shoulders, I'd say maybe take a few rolls of your shoulders kind of back and then forward. And just notice your arms kind of just hanging down, you know, resting the hands maybe on your legs, you know, with your palms either facing up or down. And your neck, is it holding any tension? Maybe just stretch out your neck from side to side, or give it a roll if that feels like something that helps. I'm just noticing somebody isn't muted. I'll just mute them there. And then what I would say is, before we now move into it, just notice your head, your forehead in particular here. Just notice if it's holding any tension, because often it can be scrunched up a bit. So just loosen the muscles of your forehead. And finally, your jaw here. We hold a lot of tension in our jaw. So just, you know, we're just loosening it a little bit if you need to, just noticing if it's holding tension. So you'll just now close your eyes if you feel comfortable to do that. So this guided meditation on the breath will help you learn to simply be and to look within yourself with mindfulness and calmness. Allow yourself to switch from the usual mode of doing to a mode of non-doing, of simply being. As you allow your body to become still, bring your attention to the fact that you are breathing, and become aware of the movement of your breath as it comes into your body and as it leaves your body. Not manipulating the breath in any way or trying to change it. Simply being aware of it and of the feelings associated with breathing. And observing the breath deep down in your belly. Feeling the abdomen as it expands gently on the in-breath and as it falls back towards your spine on the out-breath. Being totally here in each moment with each breath. Not trying to do anything, not trying to get any place. Simply being here with your breath. Giving full care and attention to each in-breath and to each out-breath, as they follow one after the other in a never-ending cycle and flow. You'll find that from time to time, your mind will wander off into thoughts. When you notice that your attention is no longer here and no longer with your breathing, without judging yourself, bring your attention back to your breathing and ride the waves of your breathing. Fully conscious of the duration of each breath from moment to moment. And every time you find your mind wandering off the breath, gently bringing it back to the present. Back to the moment to moment, observing of the flow of your breathing. Using your breath as an anchor to focus your attention, to bring you back to the present. Whenever you notice that your mind is becoming absorbed or reactive. Using your breath to help you tune into a state of relaxed awareness and stillness. Now, as you observe your breathing, you may find from time to time that you are becoming aware of sensations in your body. As you maintain awareness of your breathing, see if it's possible to expand the field of your awareness so that it includes a sense of your body as a whole as you sit here. Feeling your body from head to toe, becoming aware of all the sensations in your body, so that now you're observing not only the flow of breathing, but the sense of your body as a whole. Being here, whatever feelings and sensations come up in any moment, without judging them, without reacting to them, just being fully here, fully aware, totally present with whatever your feelings are, and with your breath and a sense of your body as a whole. And again, whenever you notice that your mind is wandering off, just bringing it back to your breathing and your body as you sit here, not going anywhere, not doing anything, just simply being, simply sitting, moment to moment, being fully present, fully with yourself. Reestablishing your awareness on the body as a whole and on the breath as it moves in and out of your body. Coming back to a sense of fullness of each in-breath and the fullness of each out-breath. If you find yourself at any point drawn into a stream of thinking and you notice that you're no longer observing the breath, just using your breathing and the sense of your body to anchor you and stabilize you in the present. Just being with your breathing from moment to moment, just sitting in stillness, looking for nothing and being present to all, just as it is, just as it unfolds, just being right here, right now, complete, human, whole. And as the practice comes to an end, you might give yourself credit for having spent this time nourishing yourself in a deep way by dwelling in this state of non-doing, in this state of being, for having intentionally made time for yourself to simply be who you are. And as you move back into the world, allow the benefits of this practice expand into every aspect of your life. So will just take until 12 o'clock to come back, which is in 4 minutes. So feel free to do what you need to for those 4 minutes, and I'll see you back at 12 o'clock. Hi, everybody. Just take your time to come back, because I actually have gone back to the beginning for some reason of the PowerPoint. So I'm just going to flick through it. But while I'm doing that, I might just reflect on just the meditation that we did there. I suppose some important kind of points around meditation, and I suppose I say they're important because for me, as somebody who kind of dipped in and out of guided meditation for, you know, years, you know, I'd kind of really want to do it regularly, but then, you know, it just, you'd feel like you wanted to do it, but you wouldn't do it. I'm sure we all can identify with that. But I suppose what really, I suppose, changed me, my buy-in to it, and maybe I suppose my commitment to sticking with it, was when I learned that I suppose it's not about not having any thoughts when we're practicing it. That's not one of the objectives of it, and nor is feeling necessarily relaxed and calm. Because I'm sure for similar to me, you know, I'm sure a lot of you probably did notice during that 8 minutes or whatever it was that you were having lots of thoughts come in and out, and that's part of it. It's the objective is rather that you just notice that you're having those thoughts, and then it's not about getting all, oh God, my brain's so busy, it just, you know, there I'm thinking again. It's rather a, oh God, yeah, my thoughts just kind of, without even meaning to, just started to manifest again. It really, the purpose of the guided meditation is like, it's I see it as like the power of attention. So it's giving ourselves the power of where we bring our attention. So if we can really exercise that muscle, you know, every time you know, we notice we're having a thought, like we would a little puppy dog, we just kind of, we bring the lead back, we kind of bring ourselves back to our breath. So the little puppy dog or the thoughts love to just do their thing, and they're always going to do that. But once we notice that that's happening, and we just very calmly, without any judgment, we just go, okay, I was thinking there. And now I'm just going to go back to just noticing my breathing. There's no special breathing or anything. It's literally just whatever way you breathe, you're just going back to noticing that you're breathing. And the more we can practice then doing that on a daily basis, we're exercising that muscle in our brain, which, you know, is a real power to us, really, isn't it? Because we want to have more power over where we're bringing our attention. We want to be able to be more present in the moment. And really, that's what meditation is about. It's about the present moment. It's about being in the present moment and training our brain to be more in the present moment. Now, there is other ways of doing that, you know, like a walk in nature where you're being really, you're really trying to be mindful of what's happening in the moment. So you're listening to the birds, you're noticing the rustle of the trees, you're feeling the air on your skin. It's a sensory kind of means of kind of bringing you into that moment. You're noticing your breath, you're noticing your feet on the ground, taking those steps. That's obviously the power of attention as well. And you're practicing when the brain does its thing and it goes off into, you know, into thoughts. You're noticing that happening, and you're coming back to noticing what's in the present moment around you. So for some of you, you know, that will be more suitable rather than the sitting and the guided meditation. I will send you an audio clip of that guided meditation, though, for those of you who do want to give that a go in terms of practicing it more regularly. Daily, it's really a daily thing, though, to really see the benefits and reap the benefits. So following on from that, and actually, before I move on, just very quickly, did anybody want to just share in the chat box how that was for you, whether it's one word or, and look, if you don't have anything that, you know, comes to mind, but if you do, feel free to put it in the chat box. I think somebody did there, soothing. Oh, great, Denise. I'm glad that it was soothing. You know, sometimes it's not soothing, you know, or relaxing, but I'm delighted that for some of you it was, you know, fantastic. So, and there's something about when we do it in a group, I do think it's you know, it feels more powerful, I think, you know. Yeah, I found it difficult to keep my thoughts out. Listen, meet your sister. I mean, a lot of the time, that's the case for me. And to say that when there is loads of thoughts going on, once you're noticing it, that's all you need to do. And actually, usually the busier the kind of that it is, actually, the more you need it and the more you actually will benefit from it, you know, even if it doesn't feel at all relaxing for the 8 minutes or whatever it is, it is still really beneficial. Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, it was therapeutic. Oh God, well, that's fantastic. Well, that's the kind of winning scenario there. When I was thinking different thoughts, I felt what you were saying would bring me back. Fantastic. And look, you know, I'm going to send you this so you can practice it, Rebecca and everybody else, you know, when it's exactly the one we just did. So you'll have that at your disposal to do whenever you like. Just keeping an eye on the time here. We're on 7 minutes past 12, so we're okay. So self-regulation. So we kind of, I've covered a lot of this already, talking about the various different ways that we can be mindful of what's happening in our bodies and in our sensory systems, you know, because our sensory systems are really are at our disposal in terms of being able to ground ourselves and regulate. So again, you know, it could be music, you know, visual in terms of, you know, nature around us, or maybe it could be painting, you know, you could be somebody who likes drawing or painting, and maybe that really helps to bring you into the present moment and helps to just bring you in touch with yourself, you know. Sometimes it's movement, you know, could be dancing, it could be yoga, it could be walking, something. The movement, though, I think the quality of the movement is more paced, I would say. You know, you're able to really feel yourself in the moment with the movement. You know, it could be sitting in a rocking chair, you know, well, that's very regulating as well. You know, if you're somebody who likes to kind of just to rock, I guess. And that can be really, you know, nice for calming the body. I suppose when you think back to when we were all babies and in our parents' arms, you know, and they were rocking us back and forth. You know, for some of us, it brings us back to that even, you know. It's why kids love swings as well. You know, it can, you know, it really kind of calms their bodies, you know. Well, not all kids, but you know, some kids, and even me as an adult kid, I love to get on a swing. And then our mind. So what helps us to kind of calm the mind? So from the chatter. So I know somebody's talked about journaling, you know, putting just whatever's in your head into a book, a journal, and closing it then, and just trying to just use that as a means to just empty your mind. Again, obviously mindfulness, like, you know, obviously the mind and body are so connected. So, you know, walking, I know I keep going back to walking in nature, but I think so many of us do find that beneficial. Walking in nature, you know, if we engage in it in a very present, mindful way, it can kind of be a means to kind of taking us out of our mind and connecting us to our body, you know, or connecting the mind and body, you know, because often a lot of us, I can certainly speak for myself, the head loves to take over. The head loves to just talk, get busy. So finding ways to kind of slow our minds down. And I do think that journaling can be a good way for that. Maybe connecting about whatever we need to talk about that maybe is doing kind of laps in our brain, you know, over and over. We need to maybe just talk about that and take it out of our head and connect with somebody about it. And again, obviously mindfulness. So somebody, I think, has put something in the chat there. Good, reminding us to go back to the breathing when thoughts come in. Yeah, completely, Carmel. I mean, I think it's just a good reminder, isn't it? Okay, my brain is busy here and I just want to maybe just come back to breathing, noticing my breath. It's a real simple thing. And look, you know, it can be at different times more challenging to do, depending on how maybe stressed you're feeling or how much, you know, is going on. I do think our sensory overload these days, you know, there's so many things coming at us. Sometimes we need to kind of just, you know, find a way maybe to take ourselves out of maybe environments where there is sensory overload at times, you know, where it's like, okay, the only way I'm going to ground myself is to take me out of this space that I'm in right now, this physical environment, because it's just too much going on, you know. And depending on how tired we are on any given day, you know, certainly for myself, if I'm feeling maybe less resourced and maybe just, you know, a little more tired, I'm not as good with, say, having background noise or, you know, busy spaces. So I know maybe if it's possible for me to make a choice on that day, you know, I'll try and do things where maybe it is a quieter activity, or, you know, I'll focus on something I can do that doesn't require full-on engagement, you know, with people, because, you know, that's minding your energy. That's self-care, you know. So day to day, that can change, can't it? You know, in terms of our resources. I just want to talk about this kind of, you know, briefly, because I'm conscious of the time, and I do want to talk about boundaries. But in terms of our self-regulation, you know, and, you know, being able to calm and regulate our bodies, I suppose a big part of that, you know, is our emotional, our emotions, you know. So there's our sensory systems, but there's obviously then our emotions and the energy that they bring to you know, to our bodies and to how we feel. And for all of us, you know, we all will manage our emotions in different ways at different times, and we'll all vary between all three of these ways that we can process them, that I'm going to just talk about now briefly. So in an ideal world, when we're thinking about regulating our emotions, we want to firstly recognize that we're feeling the emotion, because until we recognize it and are aware of it, that's where the self-awareness piece, you know, is really important. And I guess taking time so that we can actually check in with ourselves to see how we're feeling. So recognizing it in the first instance, then maybe, you know, understanding why we're feeling that way, you know, understanding what needs might be either met or not met. You know, on a basic level, you could think sleep, you know, God, I actually really am tired, you know. And actually for a lot of us, probably even just doing those 4, 7, 8 breaths or the meditation, you might have actually registered, you know, I'm actually really tired, more tired than I realized. So you know, okay, I am tired, and you know, it's because it's the end of the week, let's just say. Or maybe you're really tired because you had just something that took more of your energy on a particular day. So then you just know you're going to need to try and take an hour to yourself, or maybe go to bed early. So that's a really just simple example. Now, we all know that emotions are a lot more complex a lot of the time than that. But on those kind of basic level needs like sleep, eating, you know, they're kind of ones that are important, I suppose, to be recognizing you're hungry, recognizing you're tired. Now, let's face it, some of us, you know, we're so busy that maybe, you know, it's gotten past lunchtime and we haven't eaten. You know, that can happen. So I mean, if we look at then some of the more complex, you know, emotions and scenarios that come with them, there's times where maybe fear comes up for us, and maybe we've registered it or not. You know, maybe we're not registering the anxiety in our body, but so it's repressed, you know, we're ignoring it. Or sometimes we might notice it and we'll just deny it's there. You know, it's like, yeah, no, it's grand, I'm fine. You know, it's all good. So we'll push it away, or we'll do that and we'll distract ourselves. So, you know, you get busy doing something. Oh, you know, I'll clean this, or I'll, you know, you're not even consciously kind of making decisions about this, but you're kind of just engaging in something, you know, and you're keeping yourself distracted. and you're busy, and that's keeping you away from maybe the fear and anxiety that you're actually feeling about something. So we'll all engage in all of these kind of strategies to repress our emotions. And so sometimes that's really useful because maybe at the time that it's come up, you know, it's not a safe place to process it, or, you know, you need to just get through whatever it is, and then you'll come back to it later. You know, you'll look at it and maybe think about what you need to do. There's other times where we're just going to keep ignoring it and keep pushed away, and eventually it does find a way of expressing itself, whether it's, you know, anger and we're snapping all over the place, or, you know, it bursts out at a time when it's not even about what that was about. So that's in the overreacting, or the, you know, where it's, you know, just spilling out because we've been holding it in, like, and it just needs to come out. Or, you know, the other one is it comes out in our sleep. That's the other one, when we're keeping it, you know, keeping it pushed away. And then when we're trying to get sleep at night or in our dreams, it all comes out. And then the ideal scenario, and for all of us, listen, we vary, you know, between all of these different ways that we process emotions. But in an ideal world, we want to contain the emotion, and how best to contain the emotion is that we recognize it. Yes, I'm feeling anxious. And you know what? It's because I'm really stuck and I don't know what to do. And, you know, I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed, and it's understandable because, you know, this is something I've never done before, and it is overwhelming, and I am, I'm feeling anxious. So when you're able to then acknowledge it, it's like, okay, well, maybe the first thing is just accepting that I'm feeling it. That's kind of then going to allow me to look at things I can do to help myself with feeling overwhelmed. Maybe I need to share with somebody I'm feeling like this. Maybe they might be able to come up with some suggestions about what maybe I can do, or maybe, you know, I can ask for help. You know, asking for help can be hard for a lot of us. You know, we might be super independent people who, for really good reasons, find it hard to ask for help. And that's something, you know, to reflect on it as well, in ways that maybe you can overcome that. But you're getting the gist, everybody, are you? We're going to have a chance to kind of ask questions about all these things. As I say, we're going to have 10 minutes. So I'm going to just keep moving ahead. So being able to validate our own feelings and our own experiences is really important in terms of being able to care for ourselves, show ourselves kindness, show ourselves consideration, all the things that I know all of you here show to other people, but being able to show it to ourselves can be, can be more difficult, can't it? You know, we have internal voices that maybe aren't as kind and are maybe more negative or critical. So self-validation sounds like, you know, well, my feelings are valid. You know, it's okay that I'm feeling like this. You know, I'm allowed to feel sad about this. I'm allowed to feel angry about, you know, such and such, you know, this is how I'm feeling, you know. You know, I deserve to care for myself. It's okay to express my emotions. Obviously in a kind of, that's where the regulation piece comes in, you know, around it's okay to express my emotions. I'm going to talk about it when I'm feeling calmer. I'm going to talk about how I was feeling, because it's important for me to do that, you know, and to, you know, to help, I suppose, in a relationship. It's, you know, it's giving, it can be around connection, you know, really, you know, when we can share of ourselves, it helps us, you know, to get connection around that with another person. It's okay not to be okay. I love that, Maria. It is okay not to be okay. You know, it is okay not to be okay. Good job, go me. You know, we all have a hard job actually giving ourselves a pat on the back, don't we? I certainly do. And something do you know what? There's times where, you know, you'll probably find you're in a better place to actually validate your own feelings. And you'll often find that it's when you're more resourced, actually, as it happens. You know, because often when we're on the path to kind of maybe our tank being empty, we can kind of draw on old coping mechanisms. So maybe that's kind of being critical of ourselves or not being kind to ourselves, because that's maybe what we'd have done before. So noticing even, you know what, I'm actually being a bit critical of myself, or I am being quite critical of myself, or I'm not allowing myself to have these feelings, you know, and then thinking, yeah, it's because, you know what, my tank is empty. My tank is really getting pretty low here on you know, I'm, you know, so actually that can be like almost an indicator in your kind of, you know, your what do they call it, your glove, your, you know, in a car where you have the, you know, the thing that tells you when you're running out of petrol, you know, that can be one of your indicators, you know, when you're maybe being more critical of yourself, or you're not allowing yourself to feel how you feel. That can be one of your indicators of, okay, why is that happening? Is it because I'm really tired, or something's happened where I'm feeling more stressed? I'm just seeing somebody has to run to crash. No problem, Sharon. I'm delighted that you're feeling more calm and relaxed. So there you go there. And trusting your instincts is a really important one. You know, and again, sometimes we're not listening to ourselves. So maybe asking, you know, why aren't I listening to myself and trusting my own gut? So validating and regulating sounds like it's okay that I don't know what to do. It's natural. I'm just using anxiety as an example. It's natural to feel anxious when I don't know what to do. Okay. And you can just say this in, you know, it's like you know, you're talking to yourself, you know, mentally in your own head. I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to take a breath, and actually really physically taking a step back. Sometimes just that physical act of just taking a step back, or sitting up from where you're sitting, or whatever it is, just giving your body also that physical message, you know, not just the mental message, acknowledging how you're feeling. Yeah, I am feeling anxious. I am. And that's how I'm feeling. And that's okay. I'm going to figure this out. You know, I'm going to trust myself that I'm going to figure this out. So we're going to move on to boundaries now. We are at 25 past 12. So we have 15 minutes left. So boundaries, they're a really important part of self-care. They protect our values. So, you know, we all, I know, value quality time, whether it's with family, or whether it's you value having time for the things you love, whether it's you value being, you know, respected, whether that's through, I guess, being listened to, being considered, you know, you value kindness, you know, so there's lots of things that will influence the kind of boundaries you set in terms of your values. So what I would say to you is, if you wanted to take time, we won't be able to do it today, but yourselves, you know, taking time to look at, just to revisit what your values are, is a really good step in terms of like just checking in around your boundaries. So, you know, okay, boundaries is something that maybe I think we all need to regularly maintain, regularly check in with. I mean, certainly there's certain relationships, for instance, let's just say the parent-child relationship with young kids, like their boundaries as they get older, you know, are going to change. So you're going to be regularly checking in and seeing, okay, you know, but your values in relationships, generally speaking, are going to be, you know, in terms of the core values, like your primary values, are going to probably not really change. But some of the kind of values that maybe at different points in your life, or different points in your relationships, they may change. But also the reason for checking in on them is that maybe you know, you're not holding boundaries as much as, you know, you'd like to. You know, maybe you're not being as clear about them, maybe you're not communicating them, maybe, you know, so checking in to see how that, all of those things that, you know, are important in terms of boundaries, different in different relationships. Yeah. Okay. So, so barriers to boundaries. So I guess it seems obvious for sure that no one would want, you know, none of you would want your boundaries crossed, but for all of us here, I'm sure that we, you know, we do allow them to be crossed. And why is that? So trust, trusting yourself is one of the big ones, you know, trusting yourself, around, you know, yeah, no, I do have this is my kind of right. And, you know, it's okay to say that this is what I need, and to communicate that boundary, you know. But sometimes it's like, oh God, but maybe I shouldn't really, you know, maybe it's a bit much to ask that, you know, rather than just trusting, no, this is what I need, and I'm not feeling like, you know, this person is really listening or considering me. And you know what, it's happened, you know, a couple of times where, you know, I'm feeling resentful, you know, and I've got to trust that feeling that I'm feeling resentful, and, you know, have a calm and, you know, constructive conversation with it, with the person, so they have the opportunity as well to respond and know what maybe I'm feeling, you know. But sometimes our trusting ourselves around that can get in the way of kind of, you know, talking about that boundary or setting that boundary. Not being clear about what our values are, not being clear about what it is our, you know, then our boundary is, our self-worth, you know. I guess that ties in with the trust as well, doesn't it? And then people pleasing. Wow, this is a big one for all of us. I think I can certainly say for myself, that's the one that probably crops up the most. You know, you're kind of, oh, but I don't want to upset them, or I don't want to, you know, yeah, I don't, you know, I don't want them to not like me because I'm, you know, saying that I'm not going to do that. You know, somebody asks you to do something and you say, oh, I'll just say yes because I don't want to upset them. And then maybe they won't, you know, want to, I don't know, like they don't like me as much. So I will just say yes. But in the meantime, you're really saying no to yourself by saying yes, because, you know, you don't really have the capacity or the time, or you're just worn out, and, you know, this is just one favor too many, or this is one job adding on to a list of jobs that, you know, you already have that need tending to. Fear about the other person's response. Anybody else have any ones that aren't listed there? Feel free to put them in the chat box that maybe come up as kind of barriers to boundaries for you. Let's see. So boundary process for self-care and healthy relationships. So look, I will be sending you the slides to this so you can have a look at this, but yourselves, and maybe, thank you, Sonia, I really enjoyed the breathing technique. Oh, no worries, Janice. So what, like, first of all, breathing, you know, like grounding yourself, you know, is really important, I think, when approaching any kind of boundary, you know, when you're thinking about setting boundaries or communicating boundaries. Well, breathing is just important generally, isn't it? We need to breathe. So values in your bound, when you're trying to kind of, if you're thinking about revisiting boundaries, the first question is, what are my values? Starting with, what are the core values? You know, you can kind of do them in a hierarchy. Then out of those values, you know, you need to think about what boundaries will support you being able to kind of hold those values. Then, you know, planning around maybe needing to communicate those boundaries, or how you're going to kind of keep those boundaries in place, you know, and then, you know, planning those communications, or, you know, is important, because they're often, those kind of conversations can be anxiety provoking. They can be difficult. We can avoid them because we want to avoid the feelings inside of us that comes with communicating those boundaries. So just noticing those feelings, noticing when those feelings cause you then to avoid setting the boundary or communicating around it. Like I realized on a recent holiday, with my daughter, I was doing the whole people pleasing thing, and I wasn't holding boundaries because I was wanting to keep her happy, I suppose, and wanting her to, I guess, sometimes not kick off as well. We all can think about scenarios that happens in day to day, and getting a bad habit of then just, but knowing the reason behind it, I think really helps, so okay, Anda, I see here, when I ask you to listen to me and you feel you have to do something to solve my problem, you have failed me. Strange as it may seem, unknown author. It kind of stayed with me. I thought I'd share it. So when I ask you to listen to me and you feel you have to do something, to fix. Yes, it's very true. I mean, when we think about that, when you're telling somebody about something like you're upset, you just need to like share, unless you're asking for advice on it, you really just want to be listened to. And you don't want somebody trying to fix it, because that takes you out of the emotion, because you go into your head then, don't you? To stay in the body and in the emotion of it, and just to feel that person's presence there, when they're not trying to give you solutions unless you've asked for solutions, you just want to stay in the emotion. And maybe, you might get to a point where, you've had the release, you've had the kind of the time to kind of process, and then you might move to I guess relating about it in a way that you want some advice. But Andrew, that's so, I'm delighted to share that. So these are just some boundaries, as I say, they can be really hard when they're, when you're having to communicate them with others, when you're trying to hold them. But a good way to kind of get more comfortable with boundaries is to kind of practice setting them with yourself. So, and trying to hold your own boundaries with yourself. So that could sound like, I'm only going to spend 20 minutes on social media every day, and that's my limit. I'm not going to check email after 6 p.m. I will put aside 10 minutes for my meditation or my walk or whatever it is that helps you ground every day. I'm only going to engage in difficult conversations when I'm regulated and calm. Somebody else has just put in, I watched an interview with Jane Fonda, and she said she was 80 years old when she realized that no was a full sentence. I love that. I love this. We tend, when saying no, to feel like you need to explain exactly. And then we get in a heap over the reason we're giving. I know, oh my God, that just sounds like me, where you literally are like, giving this big reason why you have to say no, whether it's with your, with your kid, or whether it's, a work colleague, or whether it's a family member, and you're getting yourself tied up in ribbons, like explaining why you're saying no. And really, the over explaining often comes from a place of, feeling like we have to justify ourselves. And when we feel like we have to justify ourselves, we don't have to justify our needs. We don't have to justify why we're put, but it's a really good one, actually. Like to just, who is it that said that? Oh, sorry, I'm crap at using this thing. Shelley, was that Shelley O'Reilly? A brilliant Shelley. I know. Well, listen, I can tend to over explain, and somebody drew it to my attention, a family member there a couple of years ago. And now so I'm just more mindful of it. But when, old habits die hard, right? So let me see. I think we're almost finished these slides now, and we can go to questions. So this is just, I'm amazed that I've kept on time, because timekeeping with presentations is not my forte, but today I seem to have done it. So I'm thrilled with myself. Support self-care practice through, so these are just ways that I guess, when we're thinking about self-care, even just bringing ourselves back to some of these points can help just to kind of focus us. So stop trying to please everyone, the people pleasing, you know. Oh yeah, the people pleasing, right? I mean, I imagine everybody here does a bit of people pleasing. Embrace change. Yeah, fearing change, you know, because for us to grow and evolve and to feel alive, you know, change is something that is just a part of life. And it's always happening. I mean, we're changing every day, really, when you think about it. You know, we're growing, we're every day is there's change. And the one given in life is actually, you know, I guess, change. Like change is sort of part of life. So trying to, you know, ride those waves of change and put structures in place to kind of hold yourself within that. But, you know, of course, because that's important. Live in the present as much as we can. Yeah. Being mindful, you know, not getting bogged down with our thoughts, talking to ourselves in a way that we would a loved one. Yeah. That's again, you know, yeah, overthinking, Cora, absolutely, because and we just said that actually, just the overthinking can really bog us down. Simplifying our day, prioritizing good nutrition and sleep, really important. Sleep and nutrition, you know, can really be life, like when you're, I'm sure you can all, for me, if I'm sleeping well, you know, I'm far better resourced for most things. Notice your thoughts. Are they helpful or unhelpful? Yeah, and that's a great way to keep track of those kind of negative thoughts that just spiral. Not feeling guilty for taking time for myself completely, you know, because that's around the boundary, isn't it? Because with boundaries, often it's the guilt or the resentment. They're indicators that you need to kind of reflect on the boundary. So feeling guilty for putting a boundary around taking time for yourself, that's a great indicator for any of us. Okay, I'm feeling guilty about taking time for myself. Okay, this is a boundary I need to put in place to protect my energy, you know? So that, I think, let me just see, was there one more slide? I don't think, maybe there was one little slide around, yeah, this one, Brené Brown. Compassionate people ask for what they need. They say no when they need to, and when they say yes, they mean it. They're compassionate because their boundaries keep them out of resentment. And I just think that's such a powerful statement. So that is, I'm going to stop sharing now. Oh yeah, and this one little one here as well. Be kind to yourself. Because that's easier said than done, I know, but being kind to ourselves helps us actually then to be kinder to others, because we're resourcing ourselves when we're being kind to ourselves. So it is exactly 12:39. I cannot believe it. I'm so happy with myself. So any questions from anybody? Fire away, or any comments even, anything you'd like to share, whether it's on the chat or if you want to unmute yourself, go for it. Or maybe you've already put it all in the chat, and that's cool too. Everyone's quiet there.
Or hello, you can hear me?
Hello?
Yeah, I was just saying, Sonia, no, it was brilliant. The mindfulness, it's like in general, yeah, we can, you know, so busy, but
Thanks,
I often wonder, why doesn't it be put in as, I've said this before, but like, I know we're all so busy, say home visiting or whatever we do.
Yeah.
And even we set aside a few minutes a week, even if it's in our supervision, like not grounding ourselves, giving ourselves that time, like you said, when we come away from here today, right, we'll go back to our busy lives. And most of us, we will take it in, but life will take over again. Yeah. So it would be lovely to something to, I don't know, put in practice, maybe.
Like weave it into your, you know, the, you know, into weave like maybe, yeah. Any ideas, Carmel? You know, how you could.
I try to think. I used to do yoga myself for years and mindfulness, but I must admit, you know, you have to keep on doing it in order to practice it. Yeah, I suppose like
it's kind of about habit forming, isn't it?
It's habit, yeah. Even at the beginning of a meeting, I remember doing groups before or being part of groups like that. Like you said, you ground yourself.
Yeah.
And you might do a few minutes breathing techniques.
Yeah.
To just bring yourself like
Small,
even after
simple ways.
Yes, or even like little ways, I suppose, like you said, like weave them in, maybe, you know. But
yeah, I think the key thing is to try and do something that you will be able to keep up, you know, whether it is, you know, even just that 4-7-8 breath a few times a day, or that walk, you know, picking things that I suppose you feel won't as easily fall away, you know.
Yes, I suppose something that you'd I suppose like everything, like put into practice. Is it more harder? Is it to keep it up? I mean,
yeah, and I think even if something does actually, you know, it falls to the wayside, just noticing that it has and thinking, okay, I want to get that, you know, not beating yourself up about that. That's self-care, isn't it? Saying, okay, you know, the yoga went to the wayside there and that's okay, you know, but I'm going to try and get back to it maybe, you know, at the beginning of next term or whatever it is. It's about kind of just not beating yourself up about it either, you know.
I know. It's like in general, bringing wellness into work in some shape or form, be it a little, because I know everyone is, because I think it's needed. More
at the beginning of sort of a check-in or something where you do like a few rounds of breath or something.
Like bring self-care into work. Like it's lovely having to do what's been done here today. It's powerful. But like that, when we all go back into the pace of life again, it's just what do we do in general to keep well? And I find with social care work and with community work, right? I suppose I shouldn't be using me in statements. If I use I then, I, like in general, carers, if we're working with people and children, we're carers. So sometimes we leave ourselves last. So
absolutely,
so I think it's very important, because remember doing self-care, why we go into this field in the first place is because we are, I think, more generally caring people. Yes, but when you give, I think those are the people, especially, we don't look after ourselves because we have such big hearts and we just give, I think, a lot. I agree,
Carmel.
Yes. So what I try to say is, like, if we could find something within the organization, because not that we will end up getting burnt out, but in order to give to others, like you said, our cup has to be full. So just little check-ins, because I that we can put in, like you said, weave into maybe the home visit, that we will weave into it. That will become
I think it's something to really consider, and maybe, you know,
down the road, maybe
have a way to, as you say, bring it in to the daily kind of work, where there's a way that together you can encourage each other and to check in and engage in some kind of grounding self-care.
I think so. I think so. I think it's very needed, especially today. I think it's very, very needed.
I think
that's just my opinion.
I agree. I really do. Like, even if there was an option just to engage together in a guided meditation every once a week, even, that would be good, wouldn't it? You know, a group meditation or something like that. I'm just seeing there's some comments here as well. Lydia, I agree, Carmel, it would be lovely to have an hour a week in your working week for reflective practice that has to go into your timesheet and journal. I wonder, is there anybody already doing that? I don't know, but that does sound like a really good idea. To see, is there any other kind of suggestions?
Yvonne has her hand up.
Yvonne, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just typing in something there. Even like a day in a month, like have a little well-being, maybe half a day, like going for a walk or having a meditation. I know, we've recently joined the GRD team, and they had a well-being day for us, and it was lovely. You know,
okay, sorry, where was
that? We're under the new management of GRD, so they had a well-being day there in September, and it was lovely, actually. We did a hike. It was amazing. It's a great way to get to know the other team members too.
So there is a kind of few things maybe that are already in place for some of you. What I might do is, you know, when I'm sending around the guided meditation, I might just put in a few suggestions around how you could maybe weave it into your weeks or your within your workplace. That might be helpful for people, and I'll gather maybe some of the suggestions from here. But I'm delighted that you all kind of took some nuggets away from it, or this has given you a chance, I suppose, to reflect on your own self-care practices. I'm conscious that it's 1:45. I mean, Michelle, what's our timings like now?
We're doing okay. I just got one in from a direct message that just said, Sonia, how do we say no without hurting people? Like, people are saying, do you have any one-liners to use or anything like that without the other person taking it to heart? Which probably means straight away you're doing too much, but is there any way around that?
I suppose it depends on the context,
I think, sorry, Sonia, just remember your inner Jane Fonda, the no.
Yeah, no. The inner Jane Fonda, I love that.
So that's the one, say, I'm channeling my inner Jane Fonda, no.
You know what it is? It's, unfortunately, we don't have always control over how somebody else is going to feel, you know what I mean? And that's really hard. And we don't want, it's like me I can just say, my daughter, I don't like seeing her upset. I don't like that I might have to hold a boundary and she's going to be upset and she might be sad about it. But unfortunately, that's just life, isn't it? Sometimes, the other person is going to be upset, and it's upsetting for us that we might have had some role in upsetting them. But I think, the Jane Fonda, I think, maybe get a picture of Jane Fonda. We all need to get a picture of Jane Fonda and kind of plaster it somewhere.
Put it on your fridge.
Yeah.
And I do think that's very useful. I think the important thing is to look to the long term and the relationship, and to keep stressing how important the relationship is. And I suppose, I know we don't often like to explain too much, but sometimes it's important for people to realize that you're coming from a place of kindness for yourself, and that you don't want to make a promise that you can't keep, or that you're going to resent.
Josephine. I really value our relationship.
Yeah.
Is the first thing that you say, maybe, I really value our relationship. And that's why, I need to be honest about, the fact that, or what, maybe whatever it is, it really, it has the scenario. There's different scenarios, different relationships, but you're wanting to protect the relationship, really. And you're thinking about what's best for you and the relationship, really, aren't you?
Yeah.
We're just about on time. Well done, Sonia.
I'm honestly thrilled with that. That's like a real feat for me. So
I'll just pass it back over to Josephine now, just to round it off.
So just
sorry, I just wanted to say that when we do close off, you're going to get like a couple of questions are going to come up straight away just to ask you about the session. It's a tick box. It'll take you all of 1 minute, but it's really valuable to us, because then we can plan effectively for the next session. So if you wouldn't mind, it'll literally pop up when you do come off the session. That would be great.
Okay. Yeah. So thank you very much for that, Michelle. And I think it's very important for us to get feedback, to know what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong. And don't worry about upsetting us. It's important to hear what's going wrong and what's not, you'd prefer, rather than we love to hear the praise, but the other is just as important, and it's part of the learning from this. And I suppose the other thing is to say thanks to Sonia. Well done, Sonia. Lots of food for thought there. I think in spirit we're all wonderful, but it's the practical day today, and I think life for everybody, I think at the moment, is quite challenging, and that even the people whom we're meeting with and working with are finding it challenging. So I think it's a question of, I suppose, just remembering that and be kind to yourself as well as kind to everybody else. So thank you again, Sonia. Just to say thanks also to the organisers of the session, because this wouldn't happen without a lot of work and thought behind the scenes. So obviously Michelle and Annabelle, Sue, Mary Walker-Callahan, Katrina Corcoran, Trish Hurley, and I'll just give Sue's second name, Sue Cullen. And again, thanks to all on the Home Visiting Alliance. It's a great group to work with. We're very proud of the work we do in Ireland. And as we say, like over the next few months, there will be a lot of talk about the new national approach to home visiting, and your input is very important. That self-care for home visiting piece and for families is very important. And I think when we're building and thinking about the future, we need to incorporate everything we learned today, because I think to support families, we need to be the strongest we can be, so as that we can help them be the strongest they can be, if that makes sense.
Couldn't agree more, Josephine.
So just the next, sorry, just to share my screen, the next session is on infant mental health, and Trish Hurley from Let's Grow Together in Cork, who have done a tremendous amount of work in this area and is supporting the development of infant mental health networks across the country. And in terms of home visiting, I think parent mental health, which a bit of adult mental health, which we were talking about today, is important. But actually, if we have to give the children the tools to actually have good mental health as adults, we need to start pre-infancy, which is the whole tenet and central value of home visiting, is that you're supporting families right from the very start, conception onwards. And so I think this is very important. And I think all of the 5 home visiting programs incorporate mental health, infant mental health into their programs. And it's important that that continues, and that whatever the national model is, that infant mental health and adult mental health is integrated into the programs, and is very much a kind of, as Maria there will say, a prevention and early intervention approach, that it's, you know, it's default, where we can all talk, support each other, and ensure good health, mental, physical, spiritual, every other kind. So that's on the 21st of April from 11 to 1 p.m. And Michelle and Annabelle and the rest of the team, Sue, Mary, Katrina and Trish, will send out all the details, and they're already working on it, and the next one. The last piece is just to say thanks very much to everybody. And I think particularly I want to acknowledge the funders, the WHEEL, the Training Links Programme, and the Department of Further and Higher Education, Research, Innovation and Science, because without that we couldn't have these webinars. And again, if you think there's other things we could be doing, again, please let us know. And then again, the Department of Children and I have the term, you know, disability integration, youth, and every other thing that comes up in the country, it seems at the moment, and the funding from the What Works Sharing Knowledge. I think it has been really important to help us develop as professionals in the context of home visiting. And I think it's a very exciting time in Ireland to be a home visitor now. And finally, I suppose just to acknowledge PEN and the support that they give us. I don't know if you want to say a few words, Maria. I'm putting you on the spot now.
Just thanks a million. As I said, and it's amazing to see support's being offered like that, because I think that the self-care element for home visitors is just critical to carrying the weight that families have sometimes need somebody else to carry with them. So thanks a million for having me. And thanks so much, Sonia. I think we went into the afternoon a lot more zenned out than I started. So thanks for having me jump into your session, guys.
Okay, so just to say thank you all very much, and delighted that you could attend. And please don't forget the few questions at the end. They're really, really important to us. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Bye, everyone. Enjoy your weekend.
Bye.